so this is what you got to do. Now, I want to talk about delegation because there's certain things I think a CEO should never delegate. So let me kind of just say, here's what I think you need to own. When we're talking about the vision and the mission of your company, like where is point A and where is point B? Today, at the end of this year, or in 5 years, in 10 years, how big do you want this company to grow? Are you, are you planning to exit? Are you planning, like, is it in 10 years, I want to be out of the business, whether that being out of the business is selling the business or turning it over, finding somebody who can run and replace me, doing one of the, the ESOP, like having employees own it. I mean, whatever. I mean, just because you create an exit doesn't mean you have to go through that door. But just knowing that, hey, within 10, what is the business going to look like? Where are we trying to go? A plan for how you're going to get to point B. Because your employees can definitely help you. But really, the vision and the mission is you. Here's where we are. Here's where I see opportunity. This is where we're going to go. This is what we're going to become. This is what we're going to make our priority. And then you have to break it down into annual, quarterly, monthly objectives. The org chart, who does what around here, and as your company evolves, you're going to have to kind of figure that piece out. And you guys know the Rockefeller habits. There's tons of material up there on the dashboard with traction with Gino Wickman, and really that's the best content I've seen as far as quarterly, getting into those rhythms of weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual goals, rocks, and having goals for people. Really, that to me is still that's what I use. That's what I would recommend. Now, on the marketing side, the strategic marketing plan to get from point A to point B, and what I mean by that is what's the markets that we're going to go after, who's the customer, so that's the other thing, is selecting the target market, the development of your unique selling proposition, which is, we talked about that yesterday. That is a strategic decision that you make that you go build. Unique selling proposition isn't something you just kind of wake up and go, oh, look, I had this all along, never knew it was there. It's something that you decide upon based on your market, looking at the competition, saying, how are we going to carve a space? That's a very high-level strategic vision, and you can't turn that over to your employees. Just like the marketing manager training, and a marketing manager isn't going to come in and be able to tell me what this is if it's not there. Like, you need to communicate, you need to decide it and then communicate it so that they understand it. The financial model, how do you make money? That's up to you to figure out. So like looking at my division and my company, and I'm saying, all right, so the toolkit really is more of a, not loss leader, but it's almost a loss leader at this point because our customer acquisition costs are so high because we're so saturated in the market. And you're gonna, every business deals with this. At some point you hit market saturation and customer acquisition costs just get more expensive and more because you're really digging at that point. So our model used to be that the toolkit was like a big, huge profit center, and now it's a loss. Now I just want to break even, but that's I made that decision because I know if I get this customer, I've got all these other things ways I'm going to monetize that customer, so I can lose $5,000 to get a customer because I'm going to make $13,000 on the back end. And I know that because I know my numbers and I have a plan in place for that, So your financial model will change as your company evolves and grows, as long as you're making those decisions intelligently, consciously, and with a plan, and not just waiting for your accountant to come back and say, hey, you had a good year, or hey, you didn't have such a good year, you have a big tax bill you need to pay, right? So the financial model, how you price things, how you ascend clients, that's the strategy that you at this point need to own. And then as you hire really smart people to work for you, leaders who can run divisions of your organization, they will be able to help you with this as well. Also, you don't want to designing the marketing and sales systems. So I'm still involved in the systems of what happens when a lead comes in. I'm not doing the detail work. Like I'm not putting together the graphics for the shock and awe and getting it printed and sending them out, and but I'm involved in the system and the metrics and the numbers, if that makes sense. So think of it like building a house. I'm the architect. So I say, here's what the house is going to look like when it's done, and this is how many bedrooms and bathrooms, but here, Mr. Builder, I'm not laying bricks. I'm not putting drywall up. I'm not putting the plumbing in, but I am the architect and the designer of that system. Strategic customer acquisition plans, not tactical implementation. Again, that's what I'm talking about, being strategic about what products are we going to offer to get what customers, how do we package and price things to get into certain markets, how do we knock out incumbent providers. You want to be, this is like high-level strategy. Like, I'll give you an example of this. The customer I was telling you that was selling the compliance for $10,000 to $20,000 a year. And it's very, very high margin. He didn't know exactly what the margin was, but he's like, it's like a 90% gross margin, gross profit. For 10. So if they give him 10,000, he's keeping gross 9,000. Let's say, okay. So. My argument to him was and he was saying to me, he said, I think we could get into a lot of medical practices because their current IT MSPs are not doing this for them, number one. Number two, I can make a financial argument because they get paid more, so it's an easy, whenever you can sell something where you're trading, they're getting $1 for a dime. Like that, whenever you can sell something like that, it's to your advantage. When you can make a financial argument that's a genuine, true, honest like you pay me a dime and you're going to get $1, that's a good, so there's that element to it. And most MSPs aren't doing it. It's an easy financial model. Now, we don't know exactly the numbers because he wasn't using it very much for prospecting yet. But he said to me, a lot of MSPs aren't doing this, and my competitors who sell this as a service, who specialize in cybersecurity, they're charging $50,000 to do this. So but he says I can do it for 10 and still make a shit ton of profit. So my argument to him was, if everything you just told me was true, then I would spend $9,000 getting a customer to buy this. Because if we zero it out, now you got a customer. But don't just stop there. Make sure as quickly as you can, you use that to get in and get the managed services business. Does that make sense? See, that's a strategic viewpoint that a marketing manager you hire off the street is not going to be able to come up with that plan, right? Because it involves getting zero profit as long as there is a strategy in place to move this customer and to send this customer as quickly as possible into buying managed services, into buying our phone systems, into buying cybersecurity or whatever else it is, right? But see, that a marketing manager off the street is not going to be able to come up with that plan. That's very entrepreneurial thinking, and that's the piece that you need to own. Then the customer development plan, strategies for retention and ascension and back-end opportunities. Again, that's more of the entrepreneurial viewpoint. It's like I was saying with the magazine. Like that idea I came up with and said, this is how we're going to do a drip campaign, that we're going to make it a profit center, that's going to be a celebrity piece for us, that's going to get us indoors. Now, I ain't doing the magazine, though. I promise you. I'm writing a couple articles, but I'm not doing the graphic design, I'm not compiling the information, I'm not managing the list, I'm not printing it, I'm not mailing it, I'm not at the kitchen table stuffing it with my kid, none of that's going on. But I had the vision and I know where we're going with this, all right? Team building. So the other thing, and that's marketing. Then the other thing was team building. So recruiting and managing a team of people to implement your plan is your role as a CEO. Jack Welch, if you can watch this, Jack has some great videos out there on YouTube that are free, interviews. If you're working out, walking the dog, Jack Welch's leadership principles, I think, are just amazing. He's got that book, Winning. I love the book, Winning. You can get it on Audible. I like to listen to books. That's how I do better, listening to books. Brilliant. But setting the culture, the standards, and the pace is up to you. What you tolerate, measurement and accountability, it's up to you, right? Top grading your current team, Brad Smart. I recommend Brad Smart to everybody in here for a hiring process. Weeding out low performers, you get what you tolerate. Period. You get what you tolerate. Constant recruitment. This is another thing. You want to be constantly recruiting all the time. You don't have to hire people, but have job ads running for techs. Have job ads running for salespeople, for sales manager, for any role that as your company grows, you're going to recruit, because that good person could show up and you want to be able to grab them. Because you're right, there are not a lot of A players walking around out there. And they don't come available very often because they're working somewhere else, They're not like duds. And so when they become available, you want to be able to grab them. You want to be able to bring them into your organization. And this includes everyone on your team, including outsourced and part-time vendors, because managing a team is not just, well, I'm hired, this telemarketing firm to make calls for me, so I check the box and I'm just expecting perfect leads to show up. And that's why the whole thing falls apart, because you cannot, that's abdication, that's not delegation. And these people are representing your company, and they're representing your values, and they're going to be having conversations. You got to manage that as much as if you had an employee, right? So if you're going to do that, you might as well, that's why I just bring them in-house, because to do it right, if you have an outsourced telemarketing company, the value I guess they bring is they have the bodies supposedly that they've already vetted and trained. That's like the value, but the scripts and the process and the conversation, you have to manage all that. You can't just like free-range chicken, just say whatever the hell you want, because that could be damaging your reputation, right? So this is, again, team building. Even vendors and outsourced, you still got to manage them as though you're part of your team.